let's get into it. So before I go over the pre-market plan going into tomorrow, kind of want to just break down some things regarding the overall market, what's going on, and so on. Got a handful of emails this past weekend just regarding questions, what's going on. As for me, the list goes on, and obviously it's slow across the board. And the reason I want to hit on this is, when you look across social media and YouTube, it's very frustrating because everyone's trying to quote unquote predict what's going to happen, and I feel like we keep moving the goalpost. You guys know me. I'm very raw. I'm very transparent and straightforward. So I'll be the one to say it. Guys, we don't know. The market sucks right now. Actually, I'll specify that. For us, break and retest, continuation, higher time frame, directional traders, for our system, the market sucks. Right. And the last 2 to 3 weeks have been really good trading for me, but still, it sucks. Nothing extravagant. Today was a good day on Tesla, right? I caught one and done, but still, the market is trash. And when you look across the board, you see the thumbnails, generational wealth occurring, or is the time here? And I get it, right? Those are individuals who they do that for engagement to gain followers, subscribers, the list goes on. But to me, that's why I've always said the trading community is very toxic because they pry on people who are really trying in this and they use their hope against them. So I'll be the one to tell you guys the market sucks as of right now for our system. Things are very slow, and we're just going to go over that. And in my opinion, key word here, opinion. So please take it with a grain of salt. The market is really holding up regarding everything that has been going on. That's one thing I will say. We've pretty much seen everything. And what I mean when I say I feel like everyone keeps moving the goalposts is when FOMC happened, everyone's like, okay, after this, earnings, things to go back to normal. I mean, we don't know. And I think a great reminder that everyone should have is the market owes us nothing. Just because we show up every single day looking to take a trade doesn't mean that the market owes us anything. If you're trying to trade, if you trade full time, such as myself, that doesn't mean the market owes us anything. So I think it's best to have that mindset. Now, something I would say about like the market just really trying to hold up, when you really think about it, all the quote unquote big events that has occurred, it really has been. Obviously the war's been going on for roughly a month now. Still nothing, but the market really hasn't sold off how maybe most has anticipated. We had FOMC, that didn't do anything. We had all our first quarterly earnings, that didn't do anything. I remember SCOTUS, shot down the tariffs, and Trump said, you know what, I'm going to increase it 10% globally. That was a pretty big news event, and that didn't do anything. So we've seen everything, and now the new narrative is, all right, when the war ends, then things will pick up. So my advice to you guys is your job is to react, not predict. Come into the market to react and not predict. If you try and predict what's going to happen, you're going to hurt yourself, right? You're going to lose money. You're going to lose a lot of sleep, a lot of mental capital. The list goes on. Come into the market to react, not predict. That's our job as traders, to react, not predict. I really just want to hit on that. And I would say a great example on how crazy, this market is and volatile it is let's go over before we go into, everything else. Let's go over, coming into Thursday. This was very crazy to me, right? Maybe it's just me, but this was very wild to me. We ended up dropping 10 to 11 points pre-market after hours. The previous day close was what, up here? We opened down here. That was a very big gap down, right? A very big gap down. We ended up filling this entire gap within the first hour of market open. Not only that, coming into market open on Thursday, the news were, oil prices has increased another 13 to 16%. So we also had negative news, right? That's a pretty big deal coming into market open on Thursday, and still we filled this entire gap within pretty much the first hour of market open, which was mind-boggling to me. So that just showed you right there, let alone, we are in a news-driven market, but you can't come in and try and predict. And I'll be honest, I thought we were just definitely going to see a nice gap and go continuation to the downside. You can see the first 15-minute candle on Thursday. It seemed such a so, and not at all. We ended up just having a crazy V-shaped recovery on the intraday and pushed all the way up almost back into Wednesday's highs, which is wild. So I just wanted to hit on that to give you guys, honestly, just being real and transparent. The market is not good right now for our system. I really want to specify that for our system. It's trash. It's terrible. We're going to go through some names here. I'm going to give you some tips, on how to avoid bad setups, which I have been doing myself. And it's been good. Less is more. Prior to the market being in a range, you've heard me say my average trades are anywhere between 3, to 4 week, mainly 3 if it's a really good week 4. Within the last couple of weeks, maybe months, really my average trade has been 1 to 2 trades a week, if that. So just understanding that the market is very slow right now. So let's start here on really the 1 hour. So coming into today, where was SPY? No trade zone. It was in my no trade zone. And lo and behold, that was a great thing. Guys, whenever a name is in a no trade zone, that's good. That means you stay away from it. It's a low probability environment. All you have to do is look left. Look at the price action last time we were stuck in this consolidation channel. It was terrible. And then look at today when we were back inside of this consolidation channel. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Look at that. How do you avoid trades in here? It's a no trade zone. It's a range, stay away from it. Terrible. So coming into today, I myself was very neutral. I specified this. This was on the pre-market game plan. I said coming into today, fairly neutral on the market. Just SPY sitting back in the range. Even though Qs is above the PDH, it's still sitting right under its range on the higher time frame, which was on the weekly. So today was a good, skip day on SPY and Qs. I've really been focusing on those names mainly just due to really not much going on the tech side of things. And you can see today was a good skip. So what's your plan going into tomorrow? Same thing as today. If you're in between 661 and 652, stay away. You can look for that, and you can look for that. Other than that, I'm pretty much hands off here on this SPY. I don't see a high probability setup here, especially where it's sitting. Not ideal. One thing I do not like is we reclaimed 652.20. So if you go here on the weekly time frame, now we're just back. We're pushing back up into this range, into this channel. So let's go here. There is this like bull flag setting up on the weekly. There's some liquidity being built up here, no doubt. We can definitely see something like that. Who knows if we do come to a ceasefire? I mean, who knows? But the market, it's not here yet. If we even get there, it looked pretty promising. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row of straight downside. Last week, very strong, and then so far this week we reclaimed, 652.20, and now we're sitting back, technically, right on the weekly time frame, back in this channel in between 690 and 652, back in that. So just be very cautious. That's really all I can say here. Is just be very cautious. Set your no trade zones across the board, and that's really what you're looking for tomorrow on SPY. Do you get a break and retest over 661 or a short under 652.20, or do you just sit in the middle of this again? As for Qs, another day. Right, Qs, not the best price action today. I mean, look at that, not really good. If you go here on the weekly time frame, let's go to the weekly. Right, so I've said this a handful of times, really these past couple of weeks and months is, there's been this bull flag setting up here. There's been this bull flag setting up here, just so much built up liquidity on the weekly time frame. And as we know, for the longest, Qs for a pretty solid trading month or so, we sat in between 613 and 599 and 587. We really just did nothing in here. We're still flirting with 587.85. We tried to reclaim that today. Who knows? So, if we get back over this, we're just pushing back up into this madness, back into the middle of the range. So we won't know until we know. The market hasn't necessarily sold off yet, keyword yet, who knows? But you can see there hasn't really been a tank. And, for us to last week, I'm sorry, not last week, 2 weeks ago, that was a big week to the downside. We looked like, okay, finally, we're going to get this breakout here. And this is why we trade the break and retest. Keyword, retest. Retest equals confirmation. And when we came back up to retest 587.85, we didn't really get that. As you can see, we're still holding this. So we have to see, will the bears, stay heavy under 587.85, or do we reclaim 587.85 and get this push back up into the range here? We won't know until we know. So Qs is sitting in a very key spot here, but it has not, sellers have not really stepped in and rejected off of 587.85. So if you get this break and hold back over 587.85, you can see it push back up into 599 and 613.20 just sitting in here. So, keep in mind, we're in ranging markets, not trending markets. Like I said, we really necessarily haven't seen a complete sell-off. We had this daily double top, weekly double top at all-time highs. We consolidated for about a month or so. And then last week was really the first, 2 weeks ago was really the first range break, which got bought right back up last week. And that was a short week at that. And now, we're sitting and flirting with 587.85. We closed at 588.50 here, as you can see. So who knows, right? Who knows? But if we reclaim that, we're just pushing back up into the middle of the range and back into that channel. So that's just something to be mindful of on this overall market. You can see we had a very nice bounce here. Very, very nice bounce. The last 4 days have been green and very bullish on Qs here. So that's just something to keep in mind. As for tomorrow, really for the SPY and Qs, there's really nothing that I see that I like to take a trade on. You can see I have this as a no trade zone, really in between. It looks better here on the daily, really in between 591 and 587, right? So if you want to go long on Qs, you can see today we pushed up into 591.35 and rejected. So this was a good supply area that I marked out. If you want to go long, you can go long over 591.35. That's a decent RR trade. Nothing's in its way up until 599.35. You're playing the reclaim at the bottom of the channel, 587.85. So that's a solid shot if you want. Me personally, I'm just hands off on the Qs. But if you want to look for that, that's good. Now, if we can stay heavy, a short under 587.85 is solid as well. We'll still be in that downside. We'll be turning 587.85 into resistance, looking for continuation lower. So if you want to take a trade tomorrow on Qs, it's really going to be break and retest 587 or long over 591.35. Other than that, for me personally, I am hands off. Tesla, right? Caught a great trade on Tesla today. Tesla has really been kind of the easiest name to trade And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just mean that as when you look at Tesla, Tesla's the only name that's like in a clear downtrend. On the weekly, on the daily, Tesla is a clear name that you can look at right now and you see it's not sitting sideways. So that's what I mean when I say it's been fairly easy to trade Tesla. It's just been kind of hard to catch the entries, but today we finally caught it. So today, right, playing your trade your plan, pull back short, 365.35, still bearish bias on this name and trending lower. So fairly simple here coming into today on Tesla. We ended up getting a nice pop and fade, beautiful off of 367.35. Pop, fade, beautiful continuation to the downside here on Tesla. So solid shot there. Now going into tomorrow, fairly simple. Pop and fade, 355. That's it. That's it. That's all. That's all I'm looking for. If we reclaim 355, obviously I'm not looking to go long on a name that is trending to the downside, so I'm just going to skip that trade. So tomorrow on Tesla, it's either a pop and fade off of 355 or a break and retest under 343.35 here. We did get that break today. You can see our key levels being respected on the dot. The daily closed, body of the candle closed right around 352.45. So that's pretty solid, right? We still need that little bit of displacement here on the daily time frame to get that retest off of 355, and it's a weekly level, right? Wick to the damage, body tells the story. So very solid here on Tesla. So this is a valid trade, right? Pop and fade 355 tomorrow. Of course, if we gap above, you're just looking for the break and retest under 355. Other than that, hands off here. Me personally, not looking to go long on this name for obvious reasons. All you got to do is zoom out, and you can see we are in a clear downtrend. Nvidia, terrible price action, right? I mean, Nvidia, I've already told you guys this. This is how I'm treating Nvidia. There's no trade in here for me. I'm not taking a trade on this name. But it's just terrible price action. We ended up, this 170, man, this 170 is a very strong level. We ended up, as I always say, history repeats itself. We had a peak and fell. Nice little bear trap. What did that do when we reclaim this key level? Fuels that move higher. So what do? We peaked under 170 at the end of the week. This is why we trade the break and retest. On the retest, we were looking for this channel to turn into resistance. We never got it. We squeezed right back above, and look at us now, back in the middle of this madness. So it happened here, and then it's happening again here. So who knows? You know, last time it happened, we made all-time highs. So that's really what I'm trying to emphasize on is, yeah, the market sucks. Yeah, the market's sitting sideways, but it's not selling off. Right? When you look at, besides Tesla, right? Tesla's definitely pulling back pretty heavy, Microsoft, but some of these names, like Nvidia itself, holding up fairly well, fairly well. This 170 is a very, very strong level. So for me, it's either going to be that under 170 or wait for it to clear all this madness and get a break and retest over 192, 195 here. If you go here on the intraday today, that's why. That's why. There's nothing in here. This is the price action you're going to get in a range and in a channel on any of these names that's stuck in a range and in a channel. Majority of our, key names here are stuck in a range and in a channel, really across the entire tech sector. So going into tomorrow, really nothing here for me on Nvidia. Now, if you do want to take a trade here, you can just look for a break and retest over 178.05, looking for that next move up until 183.70. But very low probability environment, so just tread carefully. AMD, almost had it. I thought we almost had it, but another name, just trending. We have the break today of 255. We know this is a very strong resistance level. And what do? We pushed into it. Seller stepped in again. Nice little bull trap. What do we do when we fell a key level? We feel that move lower. So what do? Actually, let me go here on the intraday so you can see. Look pretty promising. We see this all the time, guys. If you understand the liquidity that I'm teaching you and how to read this, this is not a coincidence. You have a very strong open. I mean, look at that, a very strong open. As soon as you get back under 255, you get that fuel back to the downside. Why? Because these are all the retail traders trying to go long, getting trapped, and when they sell their positions for a loss, it fuels that move lower. We see this all the time. So, thought we almost had it today. This is why you wait for displacement and you avoid getting faked out. And once again, we pushed up into 225, and what do? We rejected. This is a very strong level, and this is all we've been doing, just ranging in between 225 and 187. That's all we're doing. We're not trending higher or lower. So today, right, we pushed into it. You can see here multiple times we ended up turning that into support, and now it's just been resistance. Even when you get a little closer, not all the way, but even around here, right, there's a lot of supply sitting here. So you just avoid all that chaos, all that madness. This is how you avoid bad trades. Just not taking a trade at all and just wait for your trade to come to you. So looking for this long over 225 or short under 187.25. There's gaps to both sides. AMD's in an interesting spot. It's gaps to both sides. We have this gap from earnings, and then we have this gap, $30 plus gap to the downside from last October. So it's in a very interesting spot, just sitting sideways. So just wait for your trade to come to you. So another name, right, just like Nvidia, that's just in a range here. Amazon, same thing. No trade zone. Look at that. Just sitting sideways. This looks much better on the weekly time frame. This has really been Amazon so far this year. Just this. Nothing. Just sitting sideways on the weekly time frame. So we're just waiting for this range break if or when we get it. So coming into tomorrow, this is actually on my close watch today. Actually, no, I ended up switching to this. This is on a side watch. Look how strong 212 is. Let me go here on the 1 hour. I mean, you can already see it on the daily, but just look how strong 212 is. Know your identity as a trader. I'm not a reversal trader, so to each their own. You know, if you are and you've just been shorting up here, you've been cashing out, right? There's opportunities. There's no doubt. There's definitely opportunities. That's just not me, right? Those are a little tougher to trade. There's less outcomes when you just look for two. Fairly easy. I'm looking for a range break. Break and retest to the upside, break and retest to the downside. You put a lot on yourself when you look for this, or that, or this, or that. Now you got 4 trade ideas, and then the market's stuck in a range with crappy price action. So just to avoid getting faked out, I'm just being very conservative, waiting for the range break. But you can see very, very strong level here, 212.80 weekly level today. What was that, Wednesday? Last week, we tested this a lot, so it's a very strong level. So going into tomorrow, the only thing I'm looking for, if it sets up, is a break and retest over 212.80 here on Amazon. If we stay under that, obviously I'm hands off because we're just still in this range here, in between 212 and 206. Apple, so very strong day here on Apple. And I actually broke this down. But I love seeing my key levels get respected on the dot, even if I don't take a trade. We got to push right up into 260, 240. Perfect rejection. Now, Apple, another name that I have not been trading. And I specified this to the Discord when we did the weekly outlook coming into this week, is I would not be surprised, crazy, we called this on the dot, if we get a blow off top. Why do we get a blow off top? You guys should know this. Because there's so much built up liquidity. There's so much built up liquidity. We're stuck in a range. So there was 2 things. One, wouldn't be surprised if we get a blow off top and not get a retest. And 2, you got to be careful. I'll go here on the weekly because even if you go long over this, well, guess what? You're going long into another range, into another channel. So that's why, as you can see, I only have 2 levels really labeled out here. That doesn't make sense for me to take a trade in the middle of this range going long into a weekly resistance. The higher probability shot is down here before we get up here. And as you can see today, that happened. Now today we ended up gapping and we had a gap and go. So there was never a retest because, well, we had a blow off top. But that's the idea. So going into tomorrow, what am I looking for here on Apple if it sets up? It had such a big day. It's either going to be a pullback long. Why turning this range, this channel, into support? We got the breakout today. We still need to retest that, or a break and retest over 260, 240. That's it. If we sit in between these 2 key levels, I'm hands off. I'm looking for a long over 260, 240, or a pullback long off of 255, 55. If it doesn't set up, there's no trade for me. Let me go here on the weekly, and you can see exactly what I mean here on Apple, right? Just another name that really has not been doing much. So we just haven't been taking trades. It's been very slow across the board. When you look at Apple here, roughly 4 weeks of just sitting in between 255 and 248. That's it. And then we finally got above 255. Who knows? It could be a peak and fell. The only way we know this move is real is if we retest this and hold it. So who knows, right? It could just be a peak and fell. We won't know until we know. But nevertheless, we were in a range here. And what do you notice here? In between 262 and 255? Well, just another range. This is what Apple did. Apple was just sitting in a range. 262, 255. We broke it. You can clearly see on the weekly time frame we turned 255.55 into resistance for the last 4 weeks. We were just ranging in between here. Now we broke back above, but now we're back in this channel of 262 and 255. So just a whole lot of nothing going on, right? Whole lot of nothing. So you're just looking for this pullback long off of 255 or a long break and retest over 260, 240. If that sets up, still clear shots ahead. A lot of unmitigated liquidity above. It's no longer sitting in a very tight range. So, if we can get over this actually does look good to the upside here on Apple. You can see 244 is really the key level here that's been holding Apple up right down here. Key demand area that's been holding Apple up, defended very, very well, even this year. And then now let's see if we can hopefully, right, get some continuation higher here on Apple. So that's the game plan going into tomorrow if that sets up. Typically after a nice trendy day, it's followed up by consolidation. And just look how beautiful this is. Like, this is what we're waiting for. Look how beautiful the price action was here on Apple when we broke the range. This is the price action you get when you break outside of a range. Just got to be patient and wait for those trades to come to you. So we'll see what sets up. I would like to see Apple hold 255.55 into support. Be patient though, because if this approaches, hey, we could just fell it. It could have just been a nice peak and fell. Right, little blow off top, fill those orders, sweep those liquidities, and fall right back under 255. So be patient. Read the price action here if or when it pulls back to 255.55. Microsoft, really nothing here on Microsoft, but this is something I specified over the weekend. I'm not too surprised. Like, this is pretty normal on Microsoft actually, because once it broke the range, see what happens when we break a range, nice trendy downside. Once we broke the range 404 and 392.30, it was just straight downside. these are daily candles. So a little bit over a trading week of just straight downside. So for us to just consolidate after a nice trendy move to the downside, this is actually very healthy here on Microsoft. Microsoft ended up breaking some key levels, got some gaps. So the consolidation is normal. So what are you looking for? Well, you can see the last, what, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3, 4 days, we've defended 367.25 fairly well. So you're just looking for a break and retest under 367.25 or a pop and fade. We ended up breaking this key level, and it's a weekly psychological whole number that we still need to retest. So pop and fade, 381, or break and retest under 365.25. To each your own, but when I look at this chart on the weekly, on the daily, this is not a name that I'm looking to long. I think out of every tech name, Microsoft actually might be really one of the weakest. Yeah, still making new lows on the year. 2 weeks ago, we were roughly about 256, 51. Last week had a little bit of a peak and fell above that. So you can see this name is very, very bearish. So if there's other names you want to long, do so. But Microsoft is not that name. Palantir, this was another name that I was looking at today. As you can see, it was on the close watch list. Just didn't get it. Yeah, I wanted to see 148.05 turn into support or resistance. So this was on, yeah, I was watching Palantir pull back long off of 148, going long off the bottom, at the bottom of the range. If Qs wants to stay strong, that's a valid trade, or break and retest under this, turning this channel back into resistance. So this was on my main watch, my close watch list before I took a trade on Tesla, and it looked good. When you look at this, we've done fairly well. The past couple of days, holding under 148.05. Just the price action has not been that good. Resistance, resistance, resistance. And then today, what did? We turned it into support. We just ended up getting a gap and go. We just opened straight upside. So 150 had a very slow pullback here. So I ended up just skipping that trade. You can see we ended up falling under 148.05 later into the day as well. So it's in an interesting spot. So tomorrow, right, if you do want to take a trade on this name, you're very neutral here. Very, very neutral. Because either you're going to turn this range, which technically the way it closed today is doing a good job, holding this as resistance. You can see past couple of days we pushed into that and sellers are stepping in. So resistance 148.05, you're looking for that break and retest under that, or will we reclaim this and turn this channel right back into support? You're getting in at the bottom of the range before you get back up to 161.75. All depends on what Qs wants to do, like I specified coming into today. So your key level, key line in the sand to go long or short is going to be off of 148.05 here on Palantir. Fairly neutral on that name. Intel, this was another name. I was looking at this. Just didn't get it. Break and retest over 51.30, targeting all-time highs. This looked really, really good. When you look at Intel, let's go here on the weekly. Not a name that I really trade, but higher time frame setup. Look at that. We ended up breaking the range here. Again, another name stuck in a range. We ended up breaking the range here. 46 and 42. You can see it was consolidating for weeks. In between here, we ended up getting a very big breakout last week. And something that I want to show you, this is the beautiful thing about channel breaks. Look at the beautiful price action. That's all we're waiting for, guys. Once these markets can start to break the range and our tech names, look at that. Just beautiful. I mean, that's a textbook. Break and retest over 46.95. Bull flag into your key level. You had 2 entries here. Never a candle fell under. And then just straight beautiful trend upside. That's what we're waiting for. But today, right, did not get that. We did end up gapping up. So that is good that we filled the gap. I actually prefer that. You can see this was the previous day close. We ended up filling the gap. And then we got back above it. So going into tomorrow, really the same play here. When you go here on the daily, there's nothing in its way. Nothing in its way. So you can look for a long over 51.30, right? You can look to maybe like scale out here at the previous day high, which would be today's high, and then see if we can hit that all-time high. If we stay under 51.30, I'm pretty much hands off here. A couple of things though. Who knows when this is set up, if it sets up. Got the big breakout here over 46.95. So, that's valid. This is a valid shot. I only like this trade if we don't hit all-time highs first. All right, that's when I primarily like this trade. A pullback off of 46.95 if we don't make a new all-time high, right? But tomorrow, main play here is going to be a break and retest over 51.30, targeting all-time highs. So hope this helps, guys. Stay safe, stay conservative, stay scaled down. These are tough conditions, right? I definitely feel for the beginner traders who's starting off. I know not everyone has a big account. It's very hard to trade in these conditions with, small accounts. I've been there. And it's very, very, very easy to go on tilt in this market. Very easy to go on tilt. So you really want to emphasize on less is more. The reason it's easy to go on tilt is because your analysis will be spot on. Your thesis will be correct. But you get stopped out of the trade, and then it sets up again, and then you take it on the second entry, and then it sets up again, and you're like, you know what, I'll give it one more shot, and now you're 0 for 3 on the day. So just really emphasize on less is more, especially in these conditions. We kind of just went through almost every name, and you can see, what do the majority of them have in common besides Tesla? They're all sitting in a channel consolidating. So hope this helps, guys. Stay safe, and I will see you guys on the next